Hey guys, Fan here again, and today I thought we would look at all of the Druid abilities in Diablo 4 because I know a lot of people, including myself, I know we're all very excited for Druid to be playable in the open beta soon. So why not get a look at all of his abilities and understand what he does before we get in there? So a couple things to take notes of real quick here. First of all, there is several ways to play Druid, it looks like. Of course, he's going to be a shapeshifter, either a werebear, werewolf. He's going to have elemental magic, going to be a caster of, and the elements. There's going to be tornadoes, lightning, rocks, that kind of stuff. And of course, he will be able to summon a lot of pets to follow him around. I believe his damage will it will mostly be split between the physical and lightning, which is the physical and elemental. Poison, I don't believe will be as big of a part of his kit, but there will be some poison damage in there as well. And of course, his unique class mechanic is spirit animals. They have not said how this works. All they've really said is you can receive a boon from 4 different spirit animals, and those boons will be different, but that's pretty much all we know as of now. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of the abilities that Druid has in Diablo 4, and I'll tell you guys what I think about them as well. So moving on, the first basic skill that Druid has is Earth Spike. So this sunders the earth and it will impale the first enemy hit for about 40 to 50 damage. And each time you hit an enemy with this, your chance to deal a crushing blow to that target is increased by 10%. Now, I think this part is actually very important. You might be asking yourself, what's a crushing blow? Because Diablo 4 has added a lot of new terminology that's not really, easy to understand if you don't know what it means. So let's go look up what crushing blows means. So crushing blow is on a successful hit. Crushing Blow deals additional damage prior to the attack's damage equal to a fraction of the remaining life total of the target. In simpler terms, this deals percent damage to the target. I will say if you come from HOTS, this is not exactly like HOTS percent damage because in HOTS percent damage is it's a percent of maximum HP. This one looks like it is a percentage of current HP, and that is, two very different things. So if a target has 100 life, you're doing 10% damage of their maximum life. That will always be 10 damage no matter what life they are at. However, with Crushing Blow, if they're at 100 life, you will do 10 damage. But if they are only at 10 life, you will only deal 1 additional damage, right? Because that's 10% of their current life. So you got to keep that in mind. This is going to be strong against single targets, but it's going to be much stronger when they have full HP than when they have low HP. So right away, that's really noticeable against probably world bosses or just bosses of any kind. Um, so you can see what it looks like here. It's just like a little rock comes out of the ground on whatever target you are casting it on. Pretty simple here. Next, we go to Shred. Shred shapeshifts you into a werewolf, and then you hit them for about 200 damage, and it has a 30% chance to strike twice. Now, for a basic ability, this sounds quite good. The single target damage is 200-ish right from here, but it's 30% chance to strike twice. So this is probably about 60 damage added on average, right? So this is really maybe 260 damage on average per strike. Sounds very high for the single target damage considering the other one was only 50 damage. But of course the other one has that crushing blow, so maybe better against late game bosses. Moving on to Storm Strike. This one is a lightning ability. I believe it is the first lightning ability. The other two were physical damage. Both Earth and Werewolf Werebear attacks are physical. So this one, electricity gathers around your weapons, deals about 60 damage between your target and up to 3 nearby enemies. So the way I'm interpreting this is your target plus 3. So 4 enemies is going to take about 60 damage each. That sounds pretty decent. That is, what is that? About 240 damage. Sounds pretty decent. The numbers are all pretty close to each other. And obviously, this is going to be a more of a AoE ability for your energy generator. The next one up here is Maul. This one shapeshifts you into a werebear. Now you deal much less damage, about 70 damage, whereas the other ones were averaging about 200 plus. But you fortify yourself for 15. Fortify you can kind of think of as it's kind of like life gain, but even when you're at full HP, you can still get it. So Fortify basically makes it so you can have another life bar on top of your life bar. And if you do have that life bar on top, then you take 10% decreased damage until all of the fortification is removed, until all of your second life bar is removed. I believe this is not updated. When I was playing the beta, early access beta, Fortify was 10% damage reduction. So keep that in mind. So this sounds like a pretty decent defensive talent. Right away when you use it, you're going to get 10% damage reduction, and you're also getting about 15 HP. Yeah, and I assume this is stackable every time you auto attack, so that can really add up. Moving on, we have the Wind Shear ability. You can conjure a piercing blade of wind dealing about 45 damage, and increasing your move speed by 5% for 3 seconds up to 30%. So once again, we have another AoE ability. Keep in mind, this one looks like it's physical damage as well. So for the wind abilities, perhaps those are physical as well. And it's just seems like a traditional AoE that helps you move a little bit faster, may be useful for speed running the earlier parts of the game. You can see here it's just like a line skill shot. Nothing too crazy there. All right, now let's move on from the mana generators, spirit generators, onto the spirit spenders. So these are the ones that are going to cost mana, and presumably these are the ones that are going to do a lot more damage, right? So first off, we have Pulverize. Physical damage, shapeshift into the werebear and slam the ground, dealing about, let's say, 400 to nearby enemies, 390, 400. Sounds pretty decent. And we can see from the example here, it's like a circle all around your character. Looks very useful for clearing mobs. And the damage number sounds reasonable, maybe even decent when used against bosses. Not to mention the werebear transformation, in my opinion, just looks really, really awesome. I mean, look at that thing. Blizzard has done a very good job in Diablo 4 with making the skills feel very satisfying and badass to use. And I actually played Druid in BlizzCon 2018 demo, and it felt really awesome. And the werebear was one of the things that felt the best to me in that entire demo. So I'm definitely looking forward to trying that out. Moving on here, we have a landslide. So keep in mind all of these cost 30 spirit for the first two. So this one crushes enemies between 3 pillars of earth, dealing up to 90 to 110 damage. We'll call it a bit over 100 damage. So right here, this is, a little confusing. We don't know if each pillar of earth deals 100 damage or not. We'll have to check that in game. But this one also has the 10% chance to deal a crushing blow. So it looks like thematically the crushing blow is going to be attached to the earth skills, and all the earth skills are probably going to be very good against high HP targets. The next one up here is Tornado. Conjure a vortex that moves outwards and curves in a random direction, dealing about 60 damage per second. You can look at the example here. This looks very similar, in my opinion, to like a Diablo 2 Tornado Druid. Very cool. You conjure tornadoes outward. The tornadoes will randomly move, and anything that gets hit is taking damage per second. Looks like a pretty good AoE ability there. Now we move on to the defensive skills. All right, so Cyclone Armor is the first one. Powerful winds protect you. You gain 15% range damage reduction. When an enemy in a melee range hits you, there's 15% chance the wind will knock it back, and you can see a demonstration of the knockback right there. I don't feel like I love this one too much personally. 15% range damage reduction doesn't sound like a huge number to me. Maybe if there's like incredibly strong ranged mobs in the late game, this could come into use. But other than that, it doesn't really sound like that great of a, damage reduction effect to me, especially because it's only on ranged. Also, when a melee hits you, 15% chance to knock it back. I don't even think that's necessarily a good thing. I feel like when you're playing a melee character in these kind of ARPGs, and there's mobs around you, usually you don't want to be knocking them away from you, right? Usually you want to be like pulling them to you so you can just clear them all with one or two spells. So knocking back sounds kind of like a detriment more than a benefit in my opinion. So not too impressed with that one, but we'll see what happens. Next one is Earthern Bulwark. Now this one is a pretty good one in my opinion. Rock surrounds you for 3 seconds, it makes you unstoppable, and it absorbs some damage, up to 80 damage. When they expire, they deal 102% of the remaining shield that you have to nearby enemies. So kind of a triple effect here. Now, this sounds really strong because Unstoppable in Diablo 4 is incredibly powerful. There's a ton of CC in Diablo 4. You're going to be feared all the time. You're going to be stunned all the time. There's, you know, roots everywhere, silences, all kinds of things. If you do not have Unstoppable, you are going to have a miserable time. And Unstoppable is even better in Diablo 4 because you can use it after you've been CC'd. So, you don't need to like use it proactively. You don't need to predict when they're going to do it to you. Even if you get hit, you just use the button and you break out of it. So, super easy to use, super powerful. Also, having a barrier in this game has proven to be very strong. There's very strong legendary effects. Something like when you have a barrier, you can do 30% more damage. This seems like a no-brainer synergy to that legendary affix. And that legendary affix, in my opinion, is easily one of the strongest ones. Just 30% damage boost across your entire character. So Earthern Bulwark seems amazing here, at least to me. All right, moving on, we have Trample, run forward as a werebear, dealing about 170 damage and stunning enemies for 1.6 seconds. We can see a demo here. Alright, so it looks like a little mobility option. You can dash and deal a little damage and also stun things. Looks pretty good to me. I haven't seen any other mobility options. So if nothing else, I'll probably be taking this just because I like having at least one mobility option on my bar. And stunning, can be nice. This is something that a lot of people don't even know about Diablo 4, but all the bosses have this stagger bar under their HP bar. And I think stuff like stunning them, the first time you use it, it doesn't actually stun the boss or anything, but it does fill their stagger bar. And when their stagger bar gets filled, so when you use enough of these effects on them, then they get stunned. So keep an eye out for that. And let's move on to the next one. Next one, Debilitating Roar. Shapeshift into a werebear, bellow with ferocity, reducing the attack speed of nearby enemies by 22% for 5 seconds. This seems pretty good to me as well. AoE damage reduction essentially seems pretty good. You can use it against AoE mobs or against boss. Either one, it should, be fairly valuable. And just look how badass that transformation is. Seems like a potential thing you can take. Next one here is Ravenous Bite. Now this one, shapeshift into a werewolf, tear the enemy's flesh, so you will deal about 25 damage, but you'll heal about 60. Keep in mind this is on a 10-second cooldown though, so it's not like you can spam this as an auto attack or anything. So the healing will not be every second or anything, it'll be every 10 seconds. And we'll see how good cooldown reduction is later on in Diablo 4. Maybe you can get it down way more than that. Moving on, we have the Wrath skills. We have Hurricane. Form a hurricane around you, deals about 180 damage to nearby enemies over 8 seconds. Sounds like a solid ability to me. You can just cast this and just doing AoE damage automatically around you. Sounds pretty solid. Definitely worth exploring. Next one up, Boulder. 8-second cooldown. Unearth a large rolling boulder that knocks back and crushes enemies, and it deals 220-ish damage with each hit. Also, the 15% chance to deal a crushing blow makes it strong against the single targets for sure. Although this is pretty decent even against multi-targets. You can see a demo video here. And you'll notice in the demo video, it looks like it hit like a bunch of times. Look at the life bar of the if you look at the life bar of these guys over here, right? So one hit, two hits, it almost looks like each of them got hit 3 times by that one rolling boulder. So this damage might tick many, many times. So we'll have to keep that in mind. And because of that, I think this one also looks pretty promising. All right, let's move on to companion skills. So first one is wolves. Summon 2 wolves. They'll bite for about 65 damage. And the cool thing about the companion skills is, unlike Diablo 2 and I believe Diablo 3, I don't think in either game there was an active ability for them other than just summoning them. So passively you summon them, but actively you can also use the button to do something else, which I think is great. That provides for more skill expression in the game, more chances for someone good to, show that they are better than someone who might not know how to do this as well, which is always a good thing. So active, you can direct them to focus an enemy. They have 50% increased chance to critical strike that guy. Sounds pretty solid to me. Definitely worth exploring. I think I saw like a legendary passive that turns your wolves into werewolves as well. So there might be some wolf-based builds down the line there that are worth exploring for sure. All right, moving on, we have ravens. Ravens fly above you, periodically attack your enemies for about, 23 damage. The target area for the active, the target area is swarmed with ravens. Enemies take damage and they will suffer from vulnerability for 6 seconds. Now, this sounds really good to me because vulnerable is think this one's not updated either. Vulnerable enemies take 20% damage, at least in the early access beta that I was playing. So 20% extra damage on anything is really valuable. We don't know what type of upgrades the Druid skill tree will have. So depending on that, if this is their best way to get vulnerability, then I can see Ravens being almost a must take in situations where this is the only reliable way you can proc it. So we'll have to see about that, but just this alone makes this skill very good in my opinion. All right, moving on. Vine Creeper. Vine Creeper periodically emerges from the ground. Deals about 40 damage to a enemy, poisons them for 40 damage. So this is the only thing that I saw that was poison damage, and you can activate it to strangle areas and then strangle enemies in a target area. They'll take some poison damage, and they'll be stunned for 2 seconds. That sounds decent. Um, once again, the stun can add to the stagger bar on the boss. As far as stunning a bunch of mobs in and of itself, usually people, would rather just try to be able to get enough damage to one-shot the mobs rather than stun them. But maybe in higher difficulties, if you can't get enough damage to one-shot them, stunning them could be useful. We'll have to see about that. All right, moving on. Cataclysm is the first ultimate ability that we have here. A massive storm follows you for 10 seconds. Tornadoes will knock back enemies, and lightning wildly strikes for about 450 damage. You can see the preview here. You can see that lightning striking really rapidly around him. Now, how good this skill is, I feel like really depends on how the lightning works. So we'll watch this one more time. If this lightning is purely random, then I could see it being pretty terrible against like a boss, right? Like against a boss, if only one of those lightning strikes the boss every 5 seconds, that would make it pretty weak in my opinion. Um, Still good for AoE clears, but I'm mostly interested in seeing how the lightning will strike a single target. If it strikes enough times on single target, it could be really good. If not, I would be kind of doubtful that, it would be too useful because you do have to fight bosses pretty often in the game as well. All right, moving on. Grizzly Rage is the second one, 50-second cooldown. The Lightning Storm was 90 seconds. Shapeshift into a werebear for 5 seconds. You get new abilities and you generate your spirit, your mana, 28% faster. You are also unstoppable the whole time. So you just go into God mode for 5 seconds here. We don't really know what the new abilities are, but definitely sounds like it's worth a shot. This one sounds like it could be potentially very strong to me. And the last one here is Petrify. Petrify all nearby enemies, stunning them for 5 seconds. Damage breaks this effect and deals an additional about 130 damage. And this skill also has a chance to deal the crushing blow here. So I'm not really sure how I feel about this. This is definitely one I'll have to go in and test. As with all of the crushing blow ones, all of these ones look promising just because of the crushing blows, the percent damage. But yeah, looking forward to testing it and finding out how it performs in the game. So that is all of the skills that Druid has. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys can jump into Diablo 4 right away and kind of already know what you're looking at. If you know what build you're going to be trying, make sure to let me know in the comments below. The two that I'm going to be trying for sure are the Earth Crushing Blow build, like I mentioned before, and the Werebear build, because I just think the Werebear is super, super badass. But would love to hear what you guys are going to be checking out. So let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you guys next time.